XRP. Guys, this has been one of the most controversial tokens in crypto history. Years of legal battles, years of underperformance, and yet it's still a top tier asset by market cap. So here's the real question heading into 2026. Is XRP finally set up for a big breakout? Or is it permanently capped by structure and supply? Today, we're going to be breaking down XRP's 2026 price outlook, the catalysts that actually matter, and the realistic bear, base, and bull scenarios. Let's go. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. You are here for real crypto analysis, long-term narratives, and realistic price targets. You're in the right place. Today, we are talking about XRP and targets for 2026. We're going to talk about what it is, what it does, what it's been through, and where we see it going. No hype, no clickbait, just probabilities and real world scenarios. So let's go. XRP. We need to start with some background, because on this channel, we don't just throw our money around at anything. Okay? Usually, everybody that watches this is not making a living trading crypto. We have full-time jobs, we collect a paycheck, and we use what's left over to invest in cryptocurrency. So you need to know what you're investing in, which is why before we do any price predictions, we always do a background on what the heck is the token and the network that we're looking at. So in this case, XRP is the native token of the XRP ledger, or sometimes you'll see it XRPL. This is built by Ripple, which is a financial institution, which actually just got pre-approval to become an actual bank, but it's built by Ripple to solve one core problem, which is fast, cheap global payments. So unlike Bitcoin or Ethereum, XRP will settle in 3 to 5 seconds. It costs fraction of a cent per transaction. Guys, this means these big guys, they can move $1 million for less than a penny instantly. That is massive. That is actually massive. XRP is also designed specifically for cross-border settlement. And this is the golden goose. This is what they're going for. Cross-border settlement, cross-border payments, right? Sending US dollars overseas, converting it into the Chinese yuan, for example. Lightning fast, low fees. Usually it takes days, right? And costs a lot, costs major percentages, 2 to 5% to do that. With XRP, pennies. But XRP is often misunderstood because it is not mined. The total supply was created at launch, which is 100 billion tokens. That's a lot. That is a huge supply, 100 billion. But we'll get into why that might not actually be that many. And Ripple still controls a large portion of that through escrow, which they release $1 billion every month, but it doesn't all hit the market. A lot of times millions and millions of it goes back into escrow. They only put out enough to support the price to keep it stable. So love it or hate it, XRP is not trying to be DeFi, NFTs, or meme coins. It is trying to be financial infrastructure. So if you've been in XRP for a while, it's kind of underperformed as of late. And let's be honest, it spent years going nowhere for one good reason. The SEC lawsuit crushed, absolutely crushed US adoption. Sad, so sad. But major exchanges delisted it or restricted its trading, which means if you had an XRP bag, boom, lawsuit, boom, you can't trade it. You just got to watch it. It was terrible. It was the hardest point in my crypto journey is not being able to do anything with my XRP. Institutions had to stay on the sidelines. And that uncertainty capped the price for years while the other layer ones just ran. Ethereum, all those were just running up in price. And XRP, stagnant. You couldn't do anything with it because the lawsuit loomed over it. Thankfully, That chapter is largely behind us now. So what are the catalysts for XRP in 26? Regulatory clarity. The SEC case is resolved, which means XRP finally has legal clarity in the US. And as of now, it's the only one. It's the only token that has legal clarity in the United States because of the lawsuit. Some people think the lawsuit was planned. Some people think they drug it out for 5 years so Ripple could get its technology and its scaling down and only clear up the lawsuit when the timing was right. We'll never know for sure, but it kind of seems fishy. Anyway, XRP has legal clarity in the US. It has a green light for institutional participation, reduced headline risk, and this alone changes XRP's risk profile dramatically. XRP also has what looks like becoming massive institutional payment adoption. Ripple continues to push XRP as a liquidity bridge, a settlement layer between fiat currencies. Remember, going from the US dollar to the yen, right? You take the dollar, you convert it to XRP, it gets sent over, the XRP gets converted to the yen instantly. XRP is a back-end solution for banks and payment providers. It doesn't really need retail hype, right? It needs volume. That means it needs banks and big institutions to start using it. And that's what Ripple has been doing. People don't understand. Ripple has been around for over a decade. And in that time, it's been making large acquisitions and creating massive partnerships with banks. You guys, you don't just change the global financial infrastructure overnight. You don't even change it in 5 years. It takes time. I mean, global payment infrastructure. Can you imagine how insane that is? So 10 years is actually not a lot of time if you want to be the platform that handles global payments. All right. So here we go. Spot ETFs, right? This is also another catalyst. These are a massive wild card. There are a couple spot ETFs that have come open now. The Canary ETF, Franklin Templeton, among others. But even modest ETF inflows will reduce circulating supply, increase liquidity depth, and legitimize XRP for conservative capital. XRP does not need Bitcoin level inflows to move. The float is actually thinner than most people think. Remember, billions of coins locked up in escrow. All right, so what's the macro and crypto cycle look like? If 2026 is still part of a broader crypto expansion, capital should rotate from Bitcoin into large cap altcoins and eventually into infrastructure plays like XRP. XRP historically lags behind its competitors, then it moves fast. However, guys, we know it comes with a lot of risks. If you've followed XRP for a while, there are risks. The key risks include the massive supply, right? That is kind of like a psychological resistance. But you have to realize, a lot of people are like, oh, XRP could never go to 100 or it could never go to 1,000. Do you know how big of a market cap that would be? You need to understand something though. XRP cannot be treated like the market cap of Nvidia or another company because it is not a company. It is a liquidity pool, right? It moves money. It represents value. And people will say like, oh, if XRP was 1,000 a token, that'd be worth more money than the US has printed. Who cares? Who cares? Add up the value of all of the real estate in the United States. Or add up the value of all the real estate in the world. It's approaching almost $400 trillion. There's not that much money printed. But guess what? If you're going to represent value on a blockchain, now all of a sudden you can see how the price of that token goes up. And if you want to move massive amounts of money in 3 to 5 seconds, you're going to need giant liquidity pools because people aren't going to want to wait. So you can't put traditional market cap mathematics on this type of asset because it is not like anything we've ever seen. Okay. Another risk is escrow unlock pressure. So maybe XRP starts to move up, boom, they unlock some tokens from escrow, supply increases, price could float down. Until all that escrow is released, which who knows how long that could be, we could see XRP on a slow rise. Okay? It could take a while, but we need to be patient. If you actually think XRP is going to be the token of the future, the global financial backbone of the future, cross-border payments, be patient. There also could be competition from other stablecoins and CBDCs, and a global risk-off macro environment, which means crypto just crashes, right? Crypto goes down. But XRP will perform the best when institutions are deploying, not when retail is gambling. Again, XRP is not a meme coin. It's financial infrastructure. I mean, the global financial system. Imagine the pain when you have to switch bank accounts or credit cards. Just you, one little tiny person in a credit card. You have to go update all your automatic payments. You got to call the electric company. You got to call and change the water bill to update your credit card number. One little bank account for you is a major hassle. Updating the entire global financial system, it's going to take time. But when it happens, and XRP is at the center of it all, watch out. So let's talk about some price predictions for 2026. This is not hype. You're not going to see me throwing out, oh, $10,000, $589. No, right? We're going realistic, because I'm not all about that nonsense bullcrap. I don't want anybody to lose money. And again, guys, this is not financial advice. I'm just trying to give you realistic scenarios. So my bear case scenario, nothing really happens. The Clarity Act sucks, right? Or doesn't even get passed. It gets punted to the end of the year. It has to do with the election cycle. Bear case, 80 cents to $1.50. Crypto would also enter a prolonged downturn. Institutions would delay adoption, and XRP would remain mostly a trading vehicle. This would be XRP in survival mode, not growth. But my base case, the most likely scenario, Trump is in office and he's a crypto guy, which makes me think the Clarity Act will get passed and it will be favorable for crypto. This would be the most realistic outcome, $3 to $6, which means legal clarity comes out, right? They pass a bill. Congress does their job for once and passes something. And moderate institutional usage upticks. There would be more ETFs approved, and healthy but not euphoric crypto market. At these levels, XRP would reclaim relevance without needing miracles, right? And my bull case, this is pretty out there. I'm more in the bear to base case, right? I think it's going to be somewhere in the $3 range personally. But the bull case, if things actually happen, $8 to $12. This would require alignment of a lot of things. Significant payment volume through XRP. Strong ETF inflows. A full altcoin expansion phase. If the Clarity Act is very positive, that could be a huge catalyst. And XRP would need to be viewed as critical financial infrastructure by the United States. Not guaranteed, but absolutely possible. In a strong cycle, we could see that $8 to $12 if all of those things take place. So final thoughts here, guys. XRP is not a meme. It's not a DeFi casino. And it's not trying to be. What you are getting in here, and I know there's a lot of hype. There's a lot of hype on Facebook and on X and on YouTube. But really, XRP is a slow burn infrastructure bet on a new financial system built on crypto rails. If institutions show up in size, XRP will surprise people and fast. If they don't, XRP will just continue to grind sideways. So that's the bet heading into 2026, guys. If you found this video valuable, if you got something out of it, leave a comment down below. Where do you think XRP is going? To the moon? Or is it going down the toilet? And remember, guys, this is cryptocurrency. It's volatile. It moves fast. which is why we need to stay focused and lock in because the world is about to be tokenized.